The return after the international break did not disappoint in the Sky Bet Championship as Wayne Rooney picked up his first win for Plymouth Argyle. Derby County picked up their second victory in a row, and we look ahead to much more in this weekend preview. There's been a lot of action this weekend. Luton Town have also picked up their first win. We're going to go through every single game in this video. All the timestamps will be down in the description, and if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned for all of my latest Derby County and EFL Championship and League One content heading your way. Obviously, it's a Championship preview today, League One review tomorrow, and then the previews heading into the upcoming weekend will be coming later down the line. So make sure you've hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell, and I'll catch you in the review. Well, let's take a look at how the league table is shaping up. West Brom are the only team still undefeated in this division as they picked up another win this weekend. Sunderland took their first loss of the season, playing against Plymouth Argyle. Blackburn win again. Burnley pick up another victory, and Watford, they find a way to draw. Sheffield United, they win. Oxford win. Derby win. Leeds United, they lose. Middlesbrough draw. Swansea City, they pick up a win. Queen's Park Rangers draw. Coventry City, they draw. Stoke City lose. Norwich lose. Bristol City and Millwall both lose as well. Plymouth Argyle pick up their first win of the season, which jumps them all the way from the relegation zone up until 16th place. You then got Luton Town, who also pick up their first win of the campaign. Sheffield United pick up a point. Preston North End 2, and the bottom three, Hull City, Portsmouth and Cardiff, all pick up losses. Shall we get into the game now we've looked at the league table? And we're starting off with the Friday night fixture at the MKM, and Hull City are in some dire need of some form. Another defeat, and it's a 2-0 defeat to Sheffield United this time. Now, if we do look at the statistics, it's not as if Hull City were out of this game. They had many chances. They created 10 shooting opportunities on 68% possession, 1.39 XG, but just could not find the back of the net. Sheffield United, 32% possession, 0.72 XG, 9 total shots. 9 total shots and 1 big chance. And what a performance by this Sheffield United side. And you look at the likes of Ray Saki, you look at O'Hare, you look at Kiefer Moore. Really, really good performances. And I think Kiefer Moore missed a couple of good opportunities. And it's one of those for me where you look at this Sheffield United side and it is only going to get better and better. And it's not as if this Hull City side is a bad side. Now, I don't quite think it has the quality that it had last season, but it certainly isn't a terrible team. And it's going to be interesting to see how this one develops for Hull City over the course of the season. You look at who they bring off the bench with Casey Palmer, Liam Miller, Cody Drama. But then you look at the players of the availability to Chris Wilder. You look at Ryan Brewster, you look at Sam McCallum, you look at Andre Brooks, Jamie Shackleton, and then you've also got the likes of Adam Davis, Reece Norrington Davis, Tyrese Campbell, all not even put on the pitch. And I think it just shows the quality available to Sheffield United. And if we do take a little bit of a deeper look into like the shooting charts and things like that, Sheffield United not necessarily having the best possible opportunities, but 4 shots on target out of 9 compared to 2 out of 10 is obviously massive for Sheffield United. You look at where these shots come for Hull City, right where you want them to be, but ultimately weren't able to create anything. If we do look at the XG, majority of that XG establish for Hull City is coming from set plays with 0.55 compared to 0.06. Now, it is interesting looking into these games, and I think it's really good to see Sheffield United picking up some form. What can Chris Wilder do with this Sheffield United side over the course of an entire season? Leeds United picked up a defeat this season with Burnley, taking a 1-0 win, going down to 10 men after 98 minutes. But is it a Colio show? Scoring in the 18th minute. And you look at this and you think Leeds United were probably a little bit robbed here. 71% possession, 1.24 XG, 17 shots, 2 big chances, compared to 0.66 XG on 29% possession with 7 shots and 0 big chances. Now, if we do look at the lineups for the two sides, I think both teams are unbelievable in my opinion. Now, I know there's been a lot of talk about Jayden Bogle from Leeds United fans over the last few days. Now, I do think that Jayden Bogle is not necessarily your defensive fullback, and Leeds United should have known that when they signed him. You look at Aronson, Solomon, Nonto, Ampadu, Rodon, some really, really good players in that side. You then look at Hannibal, you look at Fleming, you look at Lauren, you look at Worrell, Trafford, really, really good players in that Burnley side. And obviously, they had a bit of a sticky patch, Burnley, when they lost a load of players towards the back end of the transfer window, but I think the international break has done them really, really well. Now, if we look at the first half display, obviously they scored their goal, and it's as if they've just sat in, just taken in all the pressure, and then in the second half they just had absolutely no impetus to try and score. It was all about stopping Leeds United, and they did a wonderful job. Scott Parker picking up 3 points for Burnley. Luton Town pick up their first win of the season. Teden Mengi scoring a really, really nice goal early on in this game after just 10 minutes. Millwall missed some really, really good opportunities though, in my opinion. I think Macaulay Langstaff missed a one-on-one, and it's very disappointing for Millwall to go and lose this game, because I thought it was a really good performance from Millwall. 52% possession, 0.97 XG, 11 shots, 1 big chance, compared to 48% possession for Luton, 0.58 XG, 10 total shots and 0 big chances created. Now, if we do look at the lineups for the two sides, I think Rob Edwards is sort of finding his way with this team after losing some of the players that they lost over the course of the summer. They did lose some big players for their team, players who they bought in last season, knowing that they were probably going to go down, and players that they probably expected would want to stay. Obviously, keeping Alfie Doherty is an absolutely incredible keep, in my opinion. You obviously look at McGuinness, who they've bought in at centre-half, a really, really good player. I think there's a lot for this Luton side to develop on and to get better with, and I think with time they will. They just need to find their rhythm again. You look at the Millwall side, Coburn not really putting in the performance you anticipate of him, Tanganga putting in a really, really good performance, and obviously off the bench, Macaulay Langstaff missed a really good opportunity. And obviously you look at like the likes of Carlton Morris and Panzu coming on for Luton Town, and you just see the quality that they've got all throughout the squad, and it's going to be really interesting to see where these end up come the end of the season. Luton Town finally picked up 3 points. Oxford United were at home to Stoke City, and El Mazouni on the 48th minute picked up their goal, which often saw them to victory. It was a really, really good performance by Oxford United. And I think if we go through and talk about Oxford a little bit more, I think they've been a really, really good team so far in this division. They've gone toe-to-toe with everybody. They've been very unlucky in a couple of games as well. And you look, 56% possession, 1.27 XG, 14 shots, 3 big chances, in comparison to 44% possession, 0.53 and 9 total shots. Now, if we do look at the lineups for both of these sides, you look at Goodrum on the left-hand side, El Missouri, you look at Dembele and Kioso on that right-hand side. Brannigan not having his best performance, but you then look at this Stoke City side, and it's not as if they don't have good players. You've obviously got the likes of Tom Cannon and players like that, and I think this Stoke City side really needs to do a little bit more. Now, you look at the players coming off the bench for Oxford, you've got Ruben Rodriguez, you've got Will Vaulks, Malcolm Ebioe, and you look at the players who weren't used, the likes of Louis Sibley, Dane Scarlett, Owen Dale, some really, really good players. And it's one of them for me where I think Oxford United are really going to grow into this season, and I think Stoke City really need to sort of find a way. I don't think they've had a bad start to the campaign, but they've picked up a couple of rough results, and it's going to be interesting to see how they bounce back. Bristol City went away from home to Ewood Park and pick up another 3-0 defeat, similar to that defeat at Derby County, where they lost 3-0 as well. Travis and Ohashi picking up the goals. It's going to be interesting looking into this one, because Bristol City, for me, were one of those teams who I expected to be right up, pushing for a playoff position. And although they had a lot of ball possession with 55% compared to 45%, they didn't really create a great deal, which is sort of similar to that performance at Pride Park. 0.98 XG to 0.74 in Blackburn's favour. They had a similar amount of shots, 9 shots for Blackburn, 8 for Bristol City. 2 big chances created for Blackburn. And if you do look at the two lineups for the two sides, it's quite interesting for me because I really like this Blackburn Rovers side, and as it's getting into the season, I think the likes of Dolan, Hedges, Travis, I think they're going to be really, really good players. And then you look at the Bristol City side, and you look at the likes of Jason Knight, you look at Max Bird, and they're the sort of players that in these games you want them to take it by the scruff of the neck. And I had the same criticism of them at times at Derby County over the course of the start of their career, where you'd really want them to take the game by the scruff of the neck and make things happen. And you really want them to take the game by the scruff of the neck, but they just aren't able to. And yes, Max Bird gets a 7.1 rating, Jason Knight a 6.5, but judging by some of the comments made on social media by some of the Bristol City fans, Jason Knight wasn't exactly at his best. Max Bird, not necessarily where you'd like him to be. Obviously, you look at the signing of Twine, who they bought in this summer, and you expect a lot more from him. And it's one of those for me where I think John Eustace is doing an excellent job at Blackburn Rovers, and I think Liam Manning is still sort of finding his footing at Bristol City. They obviously started really well with some really, really good performances, not quite picking up the points that they probably necessarily deserved, but then over recent weeks, obviously heading into that international break off the back of a 3-0 defeat, picking up another 3-0 defeat on the road this weekend is not going to be going well for confidence for Liam Manning. It's going to be interesting to see what does happen over the course of the next week or so. Obviously, it's going to get really busy over the course of the next few weeks, and I think Bristol City really need to find some form. And Derby County win their 9th straight home league game over the course of obviously the back end of the last 2 seasons. I think it's 10 in a row if you include cup competitions. And it was Kenzo Haldmine who picked up the goal in the 28th minute. A really nice bit of work from Swansea City loanee Jerry Yates. Really nice bit of play down that left-hand side. A little bit of a flick through to Callum Elder. Plays the ball across. Caden Jackson jumps over to a free. Kenzo Haldmine who slots it in the bottom corner. And with all due respect to Cardiff City, and this is not saying that they weren't okay, I just don't think they ever really turned up. Now, in the second half, Derby County obviously lost a big player in David Ozo, and it was really disappointing to see him go down. It looks as if he's going to be out for a little while, and that made a big change to the teams. Now, if we do look at the statistics, Derby County 36% possession to 64%, 1.41 XG for Derby, 0.34 for Cardiff City, 12 shots for Derby, 9 for Cardiff, 3 big chances for Derby County, and it could have been more for Derby County. Now, if we look at the stats in the first half on its own, Derby County were much more in the game then, and in complete honesty, losing David Ozo at such an early opportunity in that second half was really, really disappointing to see. Obviously, in that second half, we should have gone 2-0 up with Ibu Adams right at the death. I'll put the clip in now. So you've seen that miss from Ibu Adams. I don't know what happened. I don't know why he missed. But obviously the 97th minute, going all the way through on goal like he did was unbelievable work. Now, if we do look at these two sides, Zetterstrom, an absolutely unbelievable performance for Derby County. Obviously, Callum Elder played left back, Mendes Lang on the left wing. Losing David Ozo so early was a disappointment, but you look at the players that we can now bring off the bench with Ben Osborne replacing him. You've then got Marcus Harness and Nathaniel Phillips coming on, as well as the experienced head of Craig Forsyth. Now, you look at the Cardiff City side and you've got El Ghazi, you've got Perry Nguy, you've got Chambers, you've got some really, really good players in there, but they just didn't really turn up. I think their best player really was probably, was it O'Dowda with the blonde hair maybe, or Colwill, something like that, playing sort of as a number 10, number 9 at points during the game, and we're just scrolling through the numbers here. If you want to take a look, make sure you do pause. It's a very interesting game for Derby County, a really, really good victory, puts them on 9 points out of 5 games, and let's see what they can do heading into next week. Now, if you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the notification bell to stay tuned for all of my latest Derby County and EFL Championship and League One content heading your way. There's obviously a lot of content coming to the channel over the course of the next few weeks, so make sure you are hitting that subscribe button and turning on that notification bell. Now we head into the next game where Middlesbrough picked up a 1-1 draw with Preston North End at the Riverside Stadium. Conway picking up the first goal of the game after just 16 minutes, with Jensen picking up the next one on 43 minutes. Now, if we look at the numbers behind this game, it's clear that Middlesbrough were the better side, but just weren't able to take their chances, which seems to be a common theme this season with Middlesbrough. 54% possession, 1.64 XG, 16 total shots, and 4 big chances, in comparison to Preston North End's 46% possession, 0.44 XG, 5 total shots, and 1 big chance. Now, if we do look at the lineups, I think what we have to notice with these teams, for me, is that Middlesbrough should be pushing for those playoffs. They've bought in George Edmondson. They've obviously got Matt Clark as well at the back. You've got Dan Barlasser in midfield, Finn Azaz. You've got Conway, Latte Laugh. You've got some really, really good players. Now, there's been a lot of talk about a pass Luke Ayling made, and it's just a routine ball up the side for any fullback in this division. And I'm not quite sure where this hype came around that pass, if I'm completely honest. I think it's a bit of a weird one, but obviously you look at the benches for the two sides and you look at the players available to Michael Carrick. You've got Ben Doak, you've got Aidan Morris, Micah Hamilton, some really, really good players. You look at Paul Heckingbottom, who's got Bowler, Holmes. It's not quite to the same level. You've obviously got players who they didn't even bring into the front as well. And for me, it's really interesting looking at these two sides and how Preston are developing under Paul Heckingbottom, because obviously he came in recently. I think they've lost one under Heckingbottom, and it's one of those for me where I think they are going to develop into this season much, much better than what they started. Obviously, I think they were really poor to start off with under their previous management, and I think they made the change at the perfect time, although it was more managerial decision than board decision. But obviously you can let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Plymouth Argyle won a 5-goal thriller at Home Park as they faced Sunderland. Now, Sunderland went ahead in the 24th minute with a penalty from Patrick Roberts. An own goal from Ballard on the 54th minute brought Plymouth Argyle back into play, and a penalty on the 73rd for Hardy put Plymouth Argyle 2-1 in the lead. Now, on the 86th minute, Sunderland must have thought they'd ran away with a point as Mundell put the ball into the back of the net. But in the 93rd minute, Edwards stepped up for Plymouth Argyle, scored in the final minutes of the game, and what scenes it was for Plymouth Argyle, beating Sunderland, the team at that point who were at the top of the table. And this is what I wanted to see from Sunderland. I didn't want them to lose, obviously, but I needed to see them lose. I need to see how they bounce back from this into the next game on the weekend, because I think it's going to be a very, very interesting turn of events for Sunderland. They need to find a way to pick themselves up. Obviously, yes, they've brought in some experienced players over the course of the summer, but it's now about how do they help bring up those youth players and help them develop into their potential of when things are going bad, can you turn it around? And it's obviously a very interesting one, and it's not even as if Sunderland were the better side over the course of the 90 minutes. It was a very, very even game. 49% possession for Plymouth Argyle to 51. 1.76 XG to 1.75. Obviously, both teams having a penalty aside. And then 13 shots to 17. Both teams creating 2 big chances. Now, you look at the lineups for these two sides, and obviously we know that Sunderland are a very, very good side, but you look at the performances from the likes of Randall, Gibson, Grimshaw, Edwards, Sissoko of this Plymouth Argyle team, and that is the epitome of what Wayne Rooney is wanting to do at Home Park. And obviously Obafemi, Whittaker, Wright will have better games, but what a performance from them. You obviously got Ryan Hardy coming off the bench, Brennan Galloway, Adam Forshaw, whereas Sunderland only bring on Alan Brown, and I'm not even going to butcher that name, we'll call him Wilson. And it's like you've got all these players on the bench for Sunderland, and they just didn't really touched them. And it's one of those for me where Sunderland will look back at this at the end of the season if they don't get in the playoffs or don't get automatic promotion by a point, and they'll think it's a missed opportunity. But I think it's a really, really good performance by Plymouth Argyle to be able to take away 3 points from Sunderland. We saw Wayne Rooney do it with Derby County, picking up those victories which you don't expect them to get. And it's going to be interesting to see if Plymouth Argyle can now build on this. Sheffield Wednesday will have thought they had won it at home in Hillsborough when Barry Bannon scored a really nice goal in the 93rd minute. And I'm sure many of you will have seen the absolute British football that was that Queen's Park Rangers equaliser from Lloyd. I believe he's an academy graduate at QPR. Now, you can correct me down in the comments, but I know it's his first goal for QPR. And I saw a bit of his interview and he couldn't really hide his excitement for that goal. It was not necessarily the prettiest, but it doesn't matter how they go in. It's a point for QPR. It's a point for Sheffield Wednesday. 53% possession to 47%, 0.82 XG to 1.29. 13 total shots for both sides. One big chance on either end of the spectrum. Now, we look at the lineups, and I think it was a bit of a difficult game for QPR. Couldn't really get into their full flow, which obviously is shown by the lack of green on their ratings. I think Dembele was sort of pulled out of the game. Fry wasn't really in the game, and it's one of those for me where they'll develop into this, and this will be a learning curve for them. They picked up their point, they can move forward. You look at Sheffield Wednesday, they've sort of rotated their formation a little bit after a recent run of poor form. Barry Bannon, obviously, at his ripe old age, picking up a really nice goal, actually. And it will be interesting to see how this develops for the likes of Sheffield Wednesday and QPR over the course of the season, because obviously, yes, it is only round 5, but ultimately every result counts. And a lot of people say the table doesn't matter till 10 games or whatever, but the table doesn't really matter till game 46. And it's all about building on results and building runs. And this is what these two sides are going to look to do coming out of this one. Swansea City faced Norwich City at the Swansea.com stadium, and an own goal after 4 minutes was all they wrote in that one. It was one of those games for me where Norwich City probably should have picked up a point, and for me, I think Norwich City being those playoff contenders, in my opinion, that they should be, should really have taken something from this game. I'm not saying Swansea on a decent side, but I think it just shows in this division that anybody can beat anybody. It's why when you look ahead to games, it's really difficult to sort of predict what's going to happen, because even teams who you'd argue, a team like Derby County, don't necessarily have the quality of a Middlesbrough, go and pick up a 1-0 win at home. And you look at games like this, Swansea City picking up a 1-0 win, 46% possession, 9 total shots, 2 big chances, 0.71 XG. And then you look at the numbers for Norwich City, 54%, 1.13 XG, 13 shots and 5 big chances. And you look at the lineups, obviously, for both sides, and I think it's quite obvious when you look at that Norwich City should be doing so much better than what they've done in this game. And obviously, Swansea City, you've got to give them their praise. They did what they needed to do, picked up their goal early doors, defended well, didn't allow Norwich City to pick up a goal, to pick up a point. And that's what you have to do in football. And it's obviously very interesting to see how these two sides are going to push forward, because Swansea City now have the opportunity to put themselves onto a bit of a run. We'll look into their game at the weekend and obviously Norwich's as we get closer to that. But it's one of those for me where Norwich City should really be doing better. Watford and Coventry went head-to-head at Vicarage Road, and it ended in a score draw. Ellis Sims scoring early doors for Coventry City, and Deli Bashiru scoring in the 67th minute to make sure Watford takes something away from another home game. And it's one of those for me where, pretty similar to the Norwich game, I think Coventry should have come away with 3 points. 4 big chances created, 2.26 XG off 49% possession. Obviously, it's not as if Watford didn't create anything. 3 big chances and 1.76 XG. It'll be disappointing for both managers, in my opinion, because I think both are looking to sort of move forward. You obviously look at Watford, who have had a really, really good start. Obviously, they've stumbled a little bit in recent weeks, but it's how they're going to bounce back from that. You obviously look at the likes of Sissoko and Pollock and Deli Bashiru in that team, and it's a really, really good team there that they have at Watford. And you look at Coventry, you look at the likes of Mason Clark, Rudani, you look at Eccles and Sims, some really, really good talent in that team for Mark Robins. And that's not even talking about what's available on the bench. Obviously, Festi Ebeselli making his debut. Dan Jebison, I'm not sure if he's already played, but getting into the team here. And it's going to be interesting to see how these two obviously progress over the course of the rest of the campaign. This is one which Portsmouth won't want to see back. It just went from bad to worse after Josh Maja scored in the first minute. Alex Mowat scoring two really nice goals in the 51st and 92nd minute to make sure that West Brom take home all 3 points. They're the only team, I think they're one of the only teams in the division that are still unbeaten if we do just look. So there's West Brom, Blackburn, Sheffield United, the only teams unbeaten now. So it's going to be interesting to see how this obviously progresses, but it was quite clear throughout the game that Carlos Corberán just had a number on John Mousinho. Now, despite Portsmouth having more ball possession, they weren't really able to create those top-notch chances, and it ended in 0.7 XG, 14 shots and 1 big chance. You've then got West Brom, 46% possession, 2.27 XG, 19 shots and 2 big chances. It's going to be really interesting to see what does happen with Pompey. Obviously, a lot of people say that, are they struggling, are they not? But for me, I don't quite think that they are. They've faced some really, really difficult teams in this opening few weeks, and I think they've still got a couple of difficult ones to face over the next couple of games before we head into this next international break. But it's going to be interesting to see how they flip the switch heading into the next set of fixtures. We've been through all of the Championship fixtures, and if you have not done so already, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. It's been a really, really interesting weekend, so let me know your thoughts down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button to help push this video to brand new audiences. Turn on the notification bell, and I'll catch you in my next one. Make sure to go and find me on TikTok, pictured here, and Twitter, pictured here. These are the places where I'll keep you all up to date with all my upcoming videos and my thoughts and feelings around the Formula 1 and football weekend.